More on this story. Let's cross to the southwestern city of Poitiers. Amicie joins us from there, president of the French branch of Catholic Voices. Thank you for speaking with us on France 24.
Thank you.
There were testy exchanges during those closing arguments. One of the plaintiff's attorneys directly calling Cardinal Barbarin a liar. Your thoughts on this trial?
I think this is a shock trial for the church, but for society as well, and I completely understand it. I think, as many people have said, it's not just about Cardinal Barbarin. It's a trial that is about how this kind of evil has been allowed to grow in the church, how the church has been led to betraying itself, to betraying its very mission. And I think that explains this kind of testy exchanges that you were just mentioning. And I think that's why some of us don't really understand what's going on here, because whatever the judicial decision that comes out of this trial tomorrow, because it's been prolonged by a day, the feeling is that it will not answer all the questions that many of us have, which are, as I was just saying, what are the mechanisms that allowed all of this to happen? Whether the cardinal himself knew or didn't know is, of course, important. And I have trust in the French justice to better understand what happened and to make him accountable to society. But the bigger questions remain, and they will not be answered tomorrow. I think everybody knows that.
The bigger questions won't be answered tomorrow, you say. With these scandals happening around the globe, it would take too long to name all the countries where people are speaking up. What should the French church be doing? Is it ahead or behind the curve?
I think the French church has to take the full measure of what happened, of the two crimes that we're talking about, the crime of sex abuse, and then the crime of silence. And I think there's been a sort of wake-up call in the wake of those revelations, which started in the spring of 2016 in our country, and which are, by the way, in quantitative terms, less important than what we've seen in the States, for instance, or in Ireland. But it doesn't really matter, because one case of child abuse is already one case too many. And so I think what the French church should be doing, and what it has begun to do, is question itself on the causes which allowed not just the abuse to happen, but also the silence to be kept. How did the hierarchy, and who did maintain this sort of silence? And this is exactly what has started to happen. Last November, the French Bishop Conference had its annual general meeting in Lourdes, and they decided to create an independent commission to investigate not just the causes of child sex abuse, but again, the reasons which have led this sort of a deafening silence to stifle the victims' complaints and their tragic stories.
Yeah, it's in that same city of Lourdes back in 2016 that Cardinal Barbarin himself said that thanks be to God, most of the facts of sexual abuse by priests against children fell outside of the statute of limitation. Those remarks provoked outrage at the time. Cardinal Barbarin, with his personality, he's really at the center of this all.
Yes, he is. Cardinal Barbarin was, it's the name that has been associated with the affairs of pedophilia in France in the church for now 2.5 years. But also, even before that, he was a very high-profile religious figure here. Cardinal Barbarin is, he's the Archbishop of Lyon, which has a very specific role in the not just in the country, but also in the Catholic hierarchy in France. In French, he's called le Primat de Gaule, the most important cleric in France. It's a very old title. And also his personality has made him a very vocal figure, and he has led many struggles. He's been very visible in taking action to welcome migrants in the Diocese of Lyon, for instance, particularly 2.5 years ago. He's been also a figure who spoke a lot on the media. I lived in Lyon myself for 2 years, and he was a very active bishop. He has this very distinctive voice, so you will remember what he says in his homilies on at church. So for all of these reasons, he's become the sort of a label. His name has become a label for these affairs, and I think many people now are familiar with his face, and the face that we saw today during the trial is the face of a man he's not on the defensive. He's not trying to defend himself. I think he's deeply sorry for what happened. I think he probably prays. He's probably also trying to pinpoint all the roads not taken where he could have acted better and sooner. And I think that's an image that will stay with many of us.
Within the church, he's a conservative. Amicie Pellicier, today, how much support does he still have among ordinary parishioners?
I know of people in Lyon who support him very much because they know him in his day-to-day role as a bishop. I know he's also taken actions to, again, as I was saying, to show sorrow and regret, and he's not shown any sign of anger or trying to dismiss all those allegations as being banal or irrelevant. Saying he didn't do it doesn't mean it's not important, of course. But I think, we all want the justice, the French justice to do its work, and we want clarification. And it's not really about whether he has support or not. It's more about whether we are really committed to the truth in this matter to come out. And I think we are. I personally am. I'm part of the Catholic Church, but I'm not part of a church that tries to protect its institutional interests and put them before, the welfare of the victims, of the least of our brothers, who are those that Christ called us to protect first, not the institution.
Amicie Pellicier of the French branch of Catholic Voices, many thanks for speaking with us from Poitiers.